Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the Lords of the Screen podcast. We're talking all things entertainment, and today we're going to give you a little taste of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But before we do that, I want to talk to Daniel Brown. Good morning, Daniel. It's good to have you back, man.
Hey, good morning. I was looking for Kentucky and found Middle Earth.
Perfect. I'm glad you're finding it, man. I hope other people are finding it as well. But yeah, Daniel, obviously on the Kentucky Seasonal before, wonderful guest to have on the show. Very happy to have him back. And Kevin Rice. Kevin, hey.
It's always great to be here with you, buddy. So how you doing?
Yes. So we have a hot topic for today, guys. There have been 3 MCU shows out so far. We started with WandaVision, we went to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now we have just Loki. And so the question, or I guess the topic that we all were coming up with in our little Lords of the Screen chat was, let's do a temperature check on the MCU, see how they're doing, see where they're going. Are they handling their transition to TV well? Are we over it, or do we still enjoy it? So let's find out. I guess we'll start with you, Kevin, for the topic of the day. Are we starting with WandaVision here? Is that where we want to go?
Sure, yeah, we can do that. So I guess really, if there's one good thing to have come out of the year-long pandemic, and this is such a weird thing to say because it was terrible for so many reasons, but I guess maybe the only positive I can think of is that it gave some much-needed space for the MCU, because the last 10 years, the Infinity Saga, all the way from Iron Man leading up to Endgame, was just jam-packed. And had the pandemic not happened, there would have been no slowdown. They had plans to just go full bore into it early last year. Having that space, though, that breathing room, I think has really been beneficial, at least for me as a consumer and a fan of the MCU. It's been really nice to step away and then have that anticipation build back up. So the new phase of the MCU started on television this time with WandaVision, which I know was a little divisive because it was such a departure for what the normal MCU shtick was.
It was an interesting place to start.
It was interesting, and it wasn't the intended place to start. That was supposed to be like 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
In Phase 4. But it ended up really being kind of just a refreshing change of pace. After that long break, we're diving back into something that is just really odd. The first 2 episodes, I remember with the premiere of WandaVision, those first 2 episodes dropped, and it was just full 50s, 60s sitcom. And a lot of people were not into it, did not understand what they were
I
going
would
for.
actually be one of them.
Yeah, right.
Oh, same for you, Daniel?
Yeah, same for me. I couldn't get into it, and I think part of it, and this is where Kevin Rice will disagree with me on, but I think part of it is dropping it week by week. It was hard to really get into it that way. I think if it was released all at once, I could have been on the bandwagon a little sooner.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big fan of the old 60s sitcoms. My wife loves them, and so she actually caught on to WandaVision just right from the get-go. She's not even an MCU consumer. She's seen maybe half the movies. She doesn't follow them very well, and she loved it from the get-go. She's a big I Love Lucy fan and all that. So the show really hit a spot with her, whereas I was the one in the house oh man, these first 2 episodes are just straight boring. I don't know if I can follow this, but I will say that, as the MCU doubter on the podcast and as the casual Marvel fan on the podcast, WandaVision to me was the best thing that Marvel's put out in a while, in a long time. Once the series was finished, of course.
So I was right there with Kate as far as the enjoyment of those first few episodes, because I grew up, with Nick at Night, Dick Van Dyke reruns, I Love Lucy reruns, Bewitched. So that really it really just hit that, scratched that itch that I didn't realize I was missing. And plus, on top of that, it was a pitch perfect recreation of that style of production. It really was, from every single aspect, from the costuming to the staging, camera work, everything was just spot on. I do agree that probably, if not fully all of it in one day, At least getting to like that third or fourth episode dropped all at once, because that, like, I think the end of the third episode was really where,
That's when you're hooked.
yeah, it was. That's really okay. So we've done with the mystery stuff. Now we're really diving into MCU. I think
I love the sitcom aspect of it, because I'm like you, Kevin. I grew up with Nick and Knight and big I Love Lucy and Mary Tyler Moore fan, so I loved it, but I didn't know how the hell this fit into the MCU, and I was just like, what is actually going on here?
And looking back at that show as a whole, now that we're 2 or 3 months removed from it, it's really an interesting case for a show because of how much it evolves episode to episode. You look at those first 2 episodes compared to the last 2 episodes, and it's hard to even think that they're the same product.
And I think it proves to skeptics out there that Marvel is not just this like one-hit wonder superhero thing. They can dive into other areas of drama and building on storylines and taking storylines that you're already familiar with and already love and like really make them different.
Yeah.
And that's actually
something they need to do more of.
Yeah, yes. That's actually what I want to see. As like a casual fan, like someone who's not fully on board the train, I want to see those unique ideas. And that's kind of why I really ended up loving WandaVision, because even we'll talk some spoilers here, even the big Evan Peters thing that people were angry about, he didn't turn out to be any sort of great character. Yeah. He was just sort of a, boner joke at the end of the day. Right. even that was great to me. Like, I love seeing them branching out and doing new things and bringing in these actors, even if it's for a small role. Like, it was just fun to have him on the show, to have him do something different, something unique. Yeah. And I just love that from them. And the whole the other vision at the end, the white vision at the end, they have, instead of having this giant superhero battle, they actually have a philosophical discussion. Right, It was fun. It was just a little something different than Thanos punching people into oblivion.
I think the most interesting and looking back on it, probably the best aspect of that show and the writing of that show was how willing they were to make Wanda, the ostensible hero of the piece, a shitty person, the villain. I mean, honestly, Agatha wasn't the villain; it was really Wanda. Right. It's not often that you see your superhero take a town hostage and torture them for 15 days straight. To where at the end they're begging for death. I mean, it was a really kind of a dark turn.
It also proves the writing that Marvel does is just among the best that's out there, to be honest with you. When you really dissect it, and I mentioned this, the building on the storylines earlier, but how they really can take that and manipulate it in such a way where, like, you're right, where you're kind of like, he's the villain, you're kind of like rooting for the villain a little bit. It's unique.
But Kevin, that's kind of one of the aspects of the MCU that you're a little tired of, right? The constant build on itself, right?
I am. I really am. I'm tired of all the stories having to interconnect. One of the big problems, and since we're talking about WandaVision, I'll bring this one up, is that due to scheduling or due to whatever it may be, not all of these actors can appear together all the time, money, all of that. It's just not feasible. So then you have someone like Doctor Strange, who's the Sorcerer Supreme, and they even bring up his name. They name drop him in the show, but he is totally absent from WandaVision. He's not there. He has nothing to do with it. And I'm like, okay, why is Doctor Strange not doing his job? Like, he can't be in 2 or 3 episodes of this show that is all about magic. It's literally his one job on
his
planet
one
Earth
job.
Right
so Kevin Feige addressed that yes, the original plan was to have Doctor Strange show up for the finale, but then they decided against that because they wanted the focus to be solely on Wanda. They didn't want her to be overshadowed, and I tend to agree with that. Bringing in Benedict Cumberbatch and Doctor Strange in that would have just shifted the focus away from the character drama that they were building and that they were executing.
But then does that beg the question, all of this building upon each other, is it going to become a house of cards? Is it going to fall down? Because you keep seeing things like this over and over where it's like, okay, well, where was Captain America? Okay, well, where was Black Panther at? And it's like, excuse that.
But to your point, though, like, that's what you dislike about the Marvel thing. And that's kind of what I don't disagree with you there. I do agree they kind of go a little overboard, and it's about getting Captain America and just because he's Captain freaking America. But one thing I like about the TV shows is they don't have to do that. You're focused on something very specific, and you can kind of fall in love with something that you didn't even know you wanted to fall in love with.
Yeah. And anyway, maybe Doctor Strange was on vacation. You never know. I mean,
Again, he does have one job.
He does get stuck in other dimensions a lot, so
Yes.
you know. But I will say, I guess that also begs the question, like, I don't know. When I'm watching these shows, I am proud of them for doing their own thing, and I very much want to see original stories. But in the back of my mind, I'm always like, this is part of a bigger universe.
Mhm.
And Marvel brought that on themselves. I mean, this has been going since what, 2008? So it's more than a decade old. Like, there are kids that have watched Marvel that are old and probably working for you now, Kevin. You know, who are watching Iron Man on their daddy's laps. You know, this has been going for a long time. And so it all, and we'll talk about this as we go on to the other two shows as well. But when I'm watching these shows, and I'm like, man, these are great standalone experiences, but they're part of such a big universe. And I have trouble separating the two, like.
So the same thing you dislike is the same thing you also like.
Yeah, it's
a conundrum. Tough. So I mean, so for me, coming from a lifelong reader of the comic books, I've been reading the comics forever. Now that we have the TV shows, the MCU feels even more structured like the comics, and that's one thing I just really love about it, is because
I don't read the comics, so I find that interesting.
I mean, all the time in the comics, you would have, okay, we're going to do a mini series about the Vision, and it's going to run for six. It's going to run for 6 issues and done. And it's just a great way to tell these personal.
Get back to their roots a little bit.
Yeah, these little encapsulated little character dramas, and that's what these really feel like to me. And then of course, it being the MCU, everything is connected. Hashtag Kevin Feige, everything's connected. It's all going to be building the stuff. So even the WandaVision, they're starting to lay the groundwork for stuff that's coming down in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Likewise, the Loki premiere that just happened yesterday, it's clearly laying groundwork for stuff that's going to be happening in the big tentpole pictures. I understand people's frustrations with that, because now I got to watch a TV show just to understand a movie.
Marvel will make it where you don't have to do that, though. They're good at that.
Yeah, they'll recap. But for me, as the guy who's watching all this shit anyway, I love seeing all that interconnectedness, because it just makes it feel like more of a living, breathing world.
It's kind of like the analogy I would use is kind of like, reading the book and then watching the movie. You always get a little something extra, a little lanyap in the book that you don't get in the movie version of it. I kind of feel like that's Marvel's take on like these different TV shows, is kind of giving you that little something extra. You're a fan, you're gonna watch, but if you don't, you'll still know what's going on, if that makes sense.
By the way, if anybody ever had a question as to where Daniel was from, he just used the word lanyap, so that's only gives one place. He's from Louisiana.
I was actually wondering what that was, but I was just gonna let him go.
I'm sorry, it's just part of my regular vocabulary.
I like it. Now, before we move on to Falcon and Winter Soldier, I wanted to ask really quickly, Black Widow was supposed to be out before all of these shows, yes, right?
That was supposed to be the kickoff for Phase 4. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, going to Falcon and Winter Soldier and kind of, I guess, Black Widow, there's a character that appears in Falcon and Winter Soldier. She's kind of a, I guess, cameo, but a cameo that no one knew about because we didn't see Black Widow, which I assume she's going to be
Madame Hydra. Yeah, she was supposed to show up in. Correct. Supposed to show up in Black Widow, carry on in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then do who knows what. But yeah, so that's credit to Marvel for still making all this stuff work. They've obviously had to shuffle some stuff around and move the puzzle pieces around. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think, is probably the biggest casualty of all that, because that was of the 3 shows so far. I guess it's really 2 complete shows and then the 1 episode of Loki. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was, to me, the one that felt the most off. I don't think it quite worked. I know you liked it more than I did. To me, it was pretty obvious that they had to make drastic writing changes or editing changes in the edit bay. There was a whole plot line about a pandemic, and that was going to be the motivation for the villains, the Flag Smashers, was about getting vaccines to where they needed to go to the people on the ground. They had to cut all of that out because obviously we were living it. Nobody wants to watch a show about it. So that ended up making them stretch other aspects of the show way too long. And so the pacing was not great. It really just felt like it could have been a movie. It should have been a movie stretched out into 6 hours.
I don't disagree that it could have been a movie. I don't know if it should have been, because if it was a movie, one of the things I liked about Falcon Winter Soldier was the bromance I didn't know I needed or know that I wanted that I'm glad I got. And if we would have made that a movie, I wouldn't have got to dive into some of the complexities of their friendship and how it developed, and you know, a lot of Falcon's home and personal life. We wouldn't have got into that in the movie.
That was the best aspect, was really developing Sam. I feel Bucky got short shrift because so much of the focus was on Sam. Which he's the headliner. I get it. He's the new Captain America. Fine. But Bucky's
you just throw that out there. Oh, fine. Like,
fine.
He's the
but
new Captain America. Come on.
I know, but I wanted more Bucky.
Oh, come on.
Here's what I'll say as a huge doubter of the show. I did not like Falcon Winter Soldier really at all.
Yeah.
What I'll say
That's all
is
the time I have then. Goodbye.
Daniel's never coming back. I loved Sam. I thought his story, I thought the racial you know, tones they were going for and trying to dive deep into race. Everything with Sam was great.
Yeah.
That was the best part of the show. I loved watching that. What was the older super soldier, the black super soldier?
Isaiah Bradley.
Isaiah, yes. Wonderful character. I loved him. God, when it got to Bucky's been brooding and edgy for like 20 years now in the MCU. He's been the edgy poster child forever now. He will never get a good story. I don't know where the Bucky love comes from. He's a good villain, but once you take him out of that villain role of the Winter Soldier, what does he do? He just cries all the time. That's it.
So I really wish they would have dug more into his rehabilitation. That was one of my favorite scenes of the show, was that flashback to where he's in Wakanda with the Dora Milaje and he's being broken of his mind control, and the flood of emotion. Credit to Sebastian Stan for really selling that. I know he's crying again, Kev, and you're rolling your eyes, but I thought that was really effective.
I think after this show, he probably will have a good change of character, but it was just kind of disheartening to me to see him in another role where he's depressed again after the third or fourth movie or whatever he's been in. But yeah, I kind of agree with Kevin Rice. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier suffered a lot. I still think it had a lot to add to the Marvel Universe. I'm very glad that Sam is Captain America now.
Mm-hmm.
I think going forward, he will be awesome in his own movie. Yeah, he brings a lot of presence to the role. I like how he's a little bit more of a motivational speaker than Steve was. Like, I like how he can kind of talk people down and out of situations. I think that's a great Captain America.
And really appreciated that they brought that back from his introduction in Winter Soldier.
They did, yes.
Yeah, before he met Steve, he was a VA counselor to veterans, and so bringing that aspect to his heroism, I thought was a brilliant little touch.
Look, I'll agree with you guys a little bit about this show, because you could totally see where Marvel shortchanged some of like the action sequences, and I'm texting Kevin Rice like, oh my god, like they ran out of money to do this scene, like it was just completely obvious, and you think, how does Marvel run out of money? But they found out a way to do it. So I agree, like some of that would have been much better on the movie screen, and a lot of the action sequences were just way too over the top for what they were going for. But again, the storyline and that relationship between the two and the race stuff that they got into, we would not have gotten in a movie, and I'm so glad that we got a chance to see some of that.
Yeah, I just think it could have been tightened up, honestly. It just kind of dragged for me. Although there's some great stuff with some of the supporting characters. Daniel Bruhl back as Baron Zemo was a highlight.
I mean, yes, he's funny, and I liked his dance sequence. But other than put on the purple mask and shoot a couple guys, what did he do?
The purple mask was pure fan service. I'll give you that.
It was pure fan service, just like what are they called? The Dora Milaje.
See, man, I
love
fan
service too.
I loved bringing them back in though, because they have such a connection to Bucky.
All they do is beat people up and act tough. They don't have any character depth to them. Like they're just.
Well, we're getting a Wakanda Forever TV show, Kev. So there's your opportunity to expand on them. So. Everybody gets a TV show going forward.
Oh God, you're right. Everyone, Marvel's not going to stop. So I guess speaking to that, we've had one episode of Loki. Now, Loki obviously has been around in the MCU for a long, long time.
Yeah.
He was the first, big bad guy in the Avengers movie. Absolutely. I mean, I think all of us will agree here that Tom Hiddleston is amazing, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
love it.
Loki, wonderful character. So we've had one episode of Loki, and so far it seems to be the most transformative of the three shows as far as consequences for the MCU will go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. just this
I
one
would go
episode.
far as saying it's a game changer for the
it
universe.
really is. Just after this one episode, it really became clear that okay, they're just going for it. They're just going full out nutty cosmic level.
Some of the same nutty that
yeah.
we liked about WandaVision we're getting
Yeah.
here, a little different way, but that same type of like what is happening kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I know, Kev, that was kind of one of your trepidations with the episode, was that now you feel like because we're expanding upwards into the cosmic hierarchy, if you will, that you feel that now everything that's come before is what, invalidated, you said?
I don't know. I guess, yeah, maybe invalidated or less important. I just feel like anybody now that's an adult, and this might not apply to kids because kids just like seeing new flashy things. They like seeing things go forward, but
so does Daniel.
So does Daniel. So do a lot of adults as well. But I guess like anyone that was really into the mythos of the story, like you have all of this buildup. You have 3 movies and several other like character driven movies, but 3 main like Avengers movies of Thanos gathering these stones and how important it is, and how, oh God, he's got the Mind Stone. He can change reality and go through time, and like just all of these ridiculously powerful things. And like Thanos by those 3rd and 4th Avengers movies was a huge threat. You know, he had the gauntlet. He was just wrecking stuff left and right. And you're like, my God, like the consequences of this, like Tony Stark gives his life for it. You know, like Tony Stark's the biggest hero in Marvel. Like, oh, wow, all of these like game changing, universal consequences. And then like
only we knew they were hiding in a drawer.
right. And then you get to the show and this goofy ass guy has stones in his drawer, and it's like, okay, it is a funny gag, and I really did like seeing it on the show. But now every single time you watch all those old Marvel movies or Thanos gaining power and he's giving his motivational speeches of how he's going to change the universe, you're going to be like, well, some dude has those in a drawer. Like none of this shit matters. It doesn't matter anymore. Like,
well, but do you think most people are thinking about that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't think so. I think this is nitpickery of the highest.
I kind of like now looking back, thinking about like them like searching the world, the universe for these stones, and they're like hiding in this like desk drawer the whole time.
Because
you got to remember this show is taking us onto a whole new plane. Of not only of existence but of power. You know, there's that moment where Loki finds those stones, that drawer full of junk Infinity Stones. And it is such a humbling moment for him, because he even literally says, oh, is this the ultimate power?
It's
not. because everything he thought he knew is now not what he thought. His perception has completely evolved and changed. And likewise, I think the intent is for us to change our perception as well. Okay, all that stuff that happened, that's all prologue. Past is prologue. Now going forward, we're in a whole new world and a whole new level. With new threats.
Kevin Rice, I love what you said about it. It's like, you know, what we thought was the most powerful thing ever are just like paperweights.
Exactly.
I just love that.
I feel like you run into like the Dragon Ball Z problem of where there's these power levels just keep escalating and this one-upism as the Marvel universe builds, and it's like, okay, they're going to introduce Kang the Conqueror next, and he's got control of the timelines, and then what happens when, you know, somehow Sam kills him with his shield or something? Like where are they going to go after that? They're going to have some next big universal
that
threat.
is my concern, because I do feel like, I mean, the whole show is built around timelines and time jumping and stuff like that, and I feel like if that's not done well, this could go really, really bad, because it's hard to do. You know, as we saw with Doctor Who, like the whole time thing is hard to do.
So I think it is all but guaranteed that by the end of this 6 episodes, the Time Variance Authority will no longer be in existence. I think Loki's tearing that shit down, and that going forward, Kev, I don't think your concerns are really going to be valid, because I really don't see that lasting beyond this show.
Really?
Yeah, because just think about it. You know, Loki as a character always has to be the guy in charge. You know, that's just his core motivation. And now he's been introduced to what to his mind is the ultimate power. The ultimate guy in charge. You don't think he's going to be trying to topple that shit? I think I think by episode's end or series end, he's either going to be in charge of it or tear it down, because if he can't have it, nobody should.
But they made it seem like, and hear me out on this, they made it seem like it was such a critical part of the world that we know. I mean, can he take that down?
Well, I and this is probably getting a little meta, but we know the multiverse is coming.
Yeah.
The next Doctor Strange movie is called The Multiverse of Madness. We know it's coming. And this episode clearly laid out the stakes that the only thing keeping the multiverse at bay, all the different universes from fighting each other, is this sacred timeline, is the TVA. So in order for the multiverse to open up wide in Doctor Strange, I don't think this can stand.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it has to fall.
I didn't think about that incorporating into Doctor Strange. I didn't think about that tying into the multiverse. So that's interesting.
Well, I don't know if it'll be Loki that brings it down, though. And I mean, also, you have to ask the question after this episode, which Loki?
That's true.
Yeah, that's very true.
Apparently, there's several of them. So one thing I did want to ask you guys is, there have been rumors swirling about, a woman cast as female Loki or a kid cast as kid Loki. Do you think that's the villain of the piece? Maybe female Loki is the villain of the piece, or
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, and I think they're, I think they'd be stupid not to bring in all the different Lokis, because there is Lady Loki, there's a kid Loki who had a great arc in the Karen Gillan's Young Avengers comics, by the way. That could easily tie that into the Young Avengers movie that they're clearly building towards. Put Kid Loki in there, sold.
See, I didn't know there were this many Lokis. So
yeah, there's tons. There's a frog Loki even. So
I knew about the female and the kid. I didn't know it was a frog and all this other stuff. So.
All sorts of stuff. So yeah,
this is an educational podcast.
There you go. Informational and entertaining. So yeah, I think they'd be bereft not to include all of that stuff. So yeah, I see it happening. Lady Loki, obviously, I think is the big one that's going to happen. There's been no casting announcements. They've kept that pretty, close to the chest. So good.
Which Marvel does really well.
So I guess that also begs the question: is Tom Hiddleston done with the role after this? Will we see him shapeshift into Lady Loki and stay, or shapeshift into Kid Loki and stay? And Tom Hiddleston will just exit the series after he gets his own show.
The recent interviews point to him exiting.
Yeah.
They may be just setting that up for you to think that, but recent interviews he's done for this, it makes it seem like this is like his last hurrah as Loki. So
is he in Love and Thunder? I don't think we know if he is or not, right?
He's not listed is the thing, and that's where the speculation and some of the questions got kind of thrown out there. So
I believe Love and Thunder is being worked on right now, right? So he would have to
just
be there.
They just wrapped filming.
Yeah, so I'm curious to what actress or what child actor they have playing Loki going forward, and because I don't think they're going to entirely get rid of the character. I don't think they can, No. But I would love to see a female Loki. I'm actually pretty interested. One of the most things I'm interested in for the Loki series is to kind of see who they casted and what's going on with all that.
So let's do some fan casting. Who would you like to see as Lady Loki?
Oh man!
And why is it Eva Green?
Oh, Eva Green would be amazing. I feel like she's a little old though.
She's probably a little old, yeah.
I feel like Marvel would want someone younger.
I agree.
Yeah. God, I don't know.
If it were me, Saoirse Ronan, that's a good choice.
She's always good.
Always great. I would go for Natalie Dormer.
Oh wow.
From Game. She was Marjorie Tyrell in Game of Thrones.
She's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about you, Danny? You got anybody?
I don't know. Like I was going with a weird choice that I'll get ridiculed, so I'll just save that to myself. So I won't say that. But for some reason, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good one. I don't know.
Give us your fan cast for Loki on our Twitter and Facebook page.
There you go.
But yeah, I guess it's going to be interesting to see how much and maybe they can change some of the doubters' minds by the time Loki wraps up. And either like Kevin said, they're going to blow the multiverse wide open, or maybe that's something they're saving for Doctor Strange to come up a little bit later. I don't know, but I think Loki so far very, very strong premiere of the three. Yeah,
definitely looking forward to what's going next. So let's rank them. Okay. Ooh. For me right now, it's I'm gonna put Loki as a provisional number one.
It's too early though.
Provisional number one. I thought it was a really strong premiere with a lot of promise. provisional though. Actual number one, WandaVision.
Right.
Yeah.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, way down at the bottom. I thought that was ended up
breaking
being
my
pretty,
heart.
ended up being pretty weak.
I agree with those rankings. I think Loki might end up being my favorite, but we'll see how it goes. You know, they could always, screw it up somehow, but they usually don't. So
Before we wrap, I mean, we haven't talked about Owen Wilson. Did you guys love Owen Wilson?
I loved Owen Wilson in this.
Me
Honestly,
too.
I thought this was one of the strongest performances he's given.
Me too. I
in
thought
a
it was
while.
really exceptional.
It was very unlike the normal.
He was funny, but
Owen
not
Wilson
corny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually showed some dramatic chops. And all I could say was, wow.
The nose is
Wow.
back, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I read an interview this morning with Owen Wilson talking, and the poor man, he's being assaulted left and right by MCU fans that want him to know every little drip of knowledge about his character. And the guy was real honest. I mean, he was very sincere, very sweet in the interview, and he was like, "Look, I really don't know anything about the MCU. I'm just playing a really great character. I really enjoy the character. I want to be there." And he's like, I've since read up, but to be honest with you, I know nothing about any of this stuff. So I was like, I appreciate his honesty. And he really does seem really earnest and wholeheartedly, trying to be in this giant universe that he's joining now. So yeah, I thought he was excellent. One of my favorite parts of the episode. I'm sure he'll continue to be as well.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting question for you guys. Do the TV shows, do you feel back up some of the criticism given by Scorsese and Kubrick that Marvel films are just, not worth it? Do you think that kind of feeds into that narrative a little bit?
All due respect to Marty.
It's not cinema, Kevin.
Get the fuck off of it, man. Come on. I mean, okay, it's not artistic, cinema verite or whatever. But
do you think that these TV shows kind of feed into that they're too commercial and you can kind of do these wonky things? Does that water down the brand?
No, I don't think it waters down the brand at all, because it's the most successful brand on the planet right now. And will continue to be so probably for the foreseeable future.
I mean, they just opened the Avengers campus in California.
It's going to take a lot of back-to-back failure for the Marvel brand to really suffer.
See, taking Falcon and Winter Soldier aside, I feel like WandaVision and Loki strengthen the brand a lot.
Yeah.
It's creative, unlike anything that's out there. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
The acting and storytelling is just really great. I almost think it kind of adds to the brand in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, I agree. Again, all due respect to Marty, I don't understand his criticism. Not all movies have to be high art. There have been blockbuster, just mainstream entertainment since the inception of cinema. I don't know. I guess when you make Kundun, you can say shit like that.
Kundun.
Where's your Oscar, Kevin?
I know, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, whatever, Marty. But yeah, it's I think it's definitely done them a world of favors. I think Disney Plus in general has done them a world of favors, and hopefully they will keep investing in Disney Plus, because I like watching stuff at my home. So
well, it's our life for the foreseeable future is just Disney pumping that shit into our veins. So it is what it is.
What about Zendaya?
As a Lady Loki, I could see that.
Isn't
she just popped in my head.
She is in Spider-Man. So
she is in Spider-Man, so she couldn't do it. So scratch that.
Too bad, Daniel. All right, well, that has been our temperature check on the MCU, how it's going so far and how we think it's going to go. We'll have much more Marvel talk in the future, I'm sure. We'll get back to some movie reviews and all that as well, but we just want to thank Daniel Brown. A big thank you. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was good to be back.
Always, man. You will be welcome back again, and we'll get Nick back next time as well. Nick had some thoughts on Loki, but I don't have him pulled up, but he did enjoy the show.
That's he was much more on my end of it, so you're wrong.
I am wrong, as usual. DC better than Marvel. Anyway, thank you.
Oh,
everyone.
God, seriously? That's how we're going to end it today? No.
I always get the final word. No, but anyway, thank you guys for joining the Lords of the Screen podcast. We're on all the podcast places, Spotify, Apple, Google, everywhere. Look us up, give us a listen, and thank you for listening.